I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but when I go back and think about when I was a child, I always think about licensed games. Like based on movies, TV shows, toys, and any media possible. I love them so much. Now, I'm not talking about games with huge budget and a way longer cook time like Star Wars Battlefront or any huge license or, games made by EA or Ubisoft or games like that. Now, I'm really focusing on games maybe from the N64 era to maybe the Wii or maybe the Xbox 360, but really this era of games where we had games like from platformers to FPS to puzzle games to weird Tetris-like games or all of these weird-ass games. That's what I'm talking about today. To me, these games were just like an extension of a movie I already enjoyed. Like, there were some stinker, of course, but I didn't care. The problem with these games is that they were only seen as product, as toys, only there because they're associated with their movie and they're just there to make money. The teams working on these games really had a short time to make something that was alright, maybe. Like, these games generally, their value and their quality really vary depending on their cook time, on the type of game they were making, and there was no real overseer. They were like, oh, you made a game? Can you play it? Okay, just put it on the shelves. And that was a huge problem because these games were barely playable. They were extremely bugged. They were just clusterfucks, And I feel like the trust of the buyers, the customers, really dropped with time because they were just seeing like, maybe it's not worth it buying this new Pixar game based on fucking Nemo for my kid. Maybe I'm just gonna ruin his childhood, And yeah, I know that a lot of these games were really janky, but some of them were pretty nice, at least from my memories. Like, let's say there was Ice Age, that was a cool adventure game, platformer. It was pretty cool. I played it a lot on the Wii. There was Surf Up, which was a racing game, which I loved. I think I played like 300 hours of this game. There was Meet the Robinsons. Oh my god, there were so many of these games, like based on especially Disney and Pixar. I've literally played them all. Sometimes these games were just copying the story based on the movie. They didn't really care. They just added some gameplay here and there. And sometimes they made a whole other story, a brand new story that was actually pretty cool. It really added to the lore and the story of the original movie or TV show. Even between different versions of the same game, like let's say the PS2, if you compare it to the DS version, you had two different teams working on basically two different games on two different engines, which is special, but it's nice. If you didn't have the PS2, you had the DS, you still had the chance to play this game or something that resembles it. I'm sure we all have this one licensed game that we remember fondly, but that we maybe shouldn't go back to play because it's probably utter trash, but the memories are what's important about these games. For me, at least. I know it's frustrating, especially if you love video games, seeing these games made with the sole purpose of making money, but they never claimed to be, high-end games or, really amazing games. They were just products. And I think maybe it kind of helped because a lot of these games didn't suffer from way, way, way high expectations from the players. Some of these games were freaking amazing. I mean, really, not only from my memories. I've gone back to play some of these games like King Kong. The King Kong game, based on the 2005 movie, I think they came out at the same time, is an amazing game. It's a great FPS action adventure game. I love it so much. Visually, it still holds up really well. I replayed it on the GameCube, I think 2-3 years ago, and I had a freaking blast. I remember the Godfather game, the Lord of the Ring, like the Return of the King, or Age of Conquest, which I love so much. It's basically if Star Wars Battlefront was set in the Lord of the Rings universe, which is so freaking cool. I don't know what was the budget for this game, but I wish we had a sequel or, a reboot or something like that, because the concept is freaking cool. There's also South Park: The Stick of Truth, which is basically an episode of South Park stretched, for a longer time. The story, the characters are amazing as always. The gameplay is really fun. It's an actually great RPG, and it's so freaking funny. All the Easter eggs. This game is so worth it, and you can get it for so cheap right now. I think you could get it for like $2, I'm pretty sure, on Steam, with its sequel, Fractured Butthole. And I can't forget about The Simpsons Hit and Run, which is an amazing game. It's basically if Grand Theft Auto was made in the Simpsons universe. You can play as all the family members. You got the classic Simpson humor, and it's just fun to just drive around and, beat people up. And, it's just fun to explore this universe that you've been following for so long. And the game looks really good, especially for its time. It really holds up with the, I don't know if it's cel shading, but it has an art direction that really stays with you and that still look pretty good. Unfortunately, since the late 2000s, we don't get these anymore. At least not made in the same way. People have lost their trust for these types of games, and they just moved on because they knew these games were just low quality, they were just there to make money, and they were just, throwing their money in the dump. So now we still get them. Like, we still get license-based games, but now it's like a bigger production, a way higher budget, a bigger teams, and you have, way more time to actually make them. You don't have to make them come out at the same time as their movie or TV show counterpart. We've seen projects like Mad Max that came out maybe 10 years ago, Indiana Jones, Hogwarts Legacy, which are all amazing games. I just feel like some licenses would be perfect for video games, especially with the emergence of video games adaptations into TV shows or movies like Fallout, Arcane, or The Last of Us. There's a lot of movies and TV shows that really deserve a game based on them, like Blade Runner, The Fifth Element. John Wick is coming out. I don't know when, but yeah, it's gonna come out. There's the new James Bond, which is pretty cool. I really look forward to it. There's this movie, The Creator, which came out maybe 2 years ago, which is a big sci-fi game that was so freaking cool. Maybe a game based on the Planet of the Apes would be so freaking cool. Maybe you choose like a human or a chimpanzee or a monkey, any type of monkey. I'd love to see a Battlefront like game based on Planet of the Apes. I think this would be so freaking cool. I'd love to see some, smaller scale license game. It doesn't need to be like, it doesn't need to cost like $300 million. It could be just smaller, maybe, you know, some quirky games, some funny games based on these medias. I'd love to see it. So I know all of this is basically wishful thinking and none of what I'm asking for is going to happen, but I really wanted to talk about the subject. So if you like the video, if you want to share your opinion, don't forget to write in the comments. I'd be happy to read them. And don't forget to subscribe also if you love my video and look forward to the next one. Thank you guys and have a nice day.